Tune in episode 70, Between Two Bridges. We switch seats, same problems.
You're listening to Between Two Bridges, a business-to-business podcast. With your hosts, Joe Ferranti and Jerry Kenna. Produced by Nathan Kenna. Interviewing entrepreneurs, business operators, and investors. This episode of Between Two Bridges is brought to you by Duro Cleaners. Luxury laundry care conveniently delivered to your door. Visit durocleaners.com because life's better without laundry.
All right, episode 70, Between Two Bridges. We're a couple months into the new presidency here, right?
Yep.
I'm paying more for everything. Yeah, it seems like everything's on the up, right? We talked about it last week with the tariffs and stuff like that, but I just think it's like a leveling phase for us right now.
Yeah, it's too early. I mean, it's obviously the entire country is feeling an economic crunch right now. I know that a lot of my business owners are feeling an impact, and a lot of my tax clients are sharing with me now. Obviously, it's tax season, and I'm hearing stories now where people are struggling. And
so you have a payroll company. I don't even know what's PA minimum wage right now.
I guess it's $7.25. I mean, I don't know anybody making it.
Federal, same.
Yeah, it's $7.25.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were talking about last week, no tax on tips, and like how that's going to be a battle cry, I feel, for a long time in politics.
Yeah.
That just took over the place of the $15 an hour minimum wage, because that you don't really hear that too much anymore.
No, you're not. And also that was the $15 minimum wage that's a big talking point for the left. The right's in control now. So they're not really going to talk about that much, but they're talking more about, so most of the time when Democrats control, they're talking about raising wages. When the right's in control, they're talking about lowering taxes, right? So the right's in control now, so they're talking about no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, try to put more money in people's pockets by trying to take less in taxes, right? And, motivate growth that way. One of the things that has happened historically, for instance, when George W. Bush took office, he lowered the capital gains tax rate down to 15%. And that actually spurred growth when that happened and actually increased revenue because it motivated people to sell off assets that they had been holding and actually increased revenue for the government because more people were selling assets paying the 15% tax than were paying the higher capital gains rate at the higher rate before. So lower rates don't necessarily mean lower revenue because sometimes it motivates growth and more people spend money. So more people will pay in taxes.
Yeah, so if someone's sitting on a building that they don't, like they might have a tenant for 20 years, they don't want to sell it to them because they're going to get whacked with capital gains.
Yeah, but if now you're going to lower tax rates a little bit, maybe, hey, if I'm going to pay less in capital gains, maybe now's the time to unload that building. I'm going to take advantage of the lower rate and sell that building. So yeah, there's opportunity that way. Now, when you're going to eliminate taxes on a certain revenue type like tips or overtime or Social Security, I mean, you're not going to increase revenue by doing that. Now, you could increase productivity by no tax on overtime. You could increase.
See, I'm I've always felt like if you're running a good business, you should be able to get your shit done in 40 hours. You know what I mean? Obviously with tax season, you have these like ups and downs in your business, but like in a manufacturing setting or even like my production setting, like I should be able to organize myself to get it done in 40 hours. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so I think that there's jobs out there like linemen, you know, it's windy in Pitts. It's windy around here today. They're going to get some overtime, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, like we said, like I'd rather pay someone if there's no tax on overtime. My business plan's going to change.
It could, yeah. And then, you know, the no tax on tips thing, you know, we talked last week about, you know, the logistics of that is going to determine my opinion of it. And I was asked today by a client what my opinion of it was as a tax professional, as an accountant. You know, what do you think about no tax on tips? Is that a good thing or is it a bad thing? You know, how does that actually translate? And I said, well, I'd like to see, because there's not really been any detail. Is it just on federal tax? Is it also mean no tax on Social Security and Medicare? And if it also includes Social Security and Medicare, does that include the employer? Now, if it does include the employer, then that's a tax savings to the employer, which means a higher profit for the employer, which also means a higher income tax for the employer, which you're going to be able to get a higher tax for the employer, which you have to remember too, if you're taxing a server, which may be at call it a 12% tax rate, or the guy that owns the restaurant that might be at a 32 or a 35% tax rate, if you're going to increase his profit margin, you're going to get more money by giving him more money.
Right.
So you could generate more tax revenue by allowing him to have a higher profit margin. You're also possibly going to allow him by letting him save some money in taxes, and letting him have more profit. You potentially allow him to hire more staff, maybe another guy in the kitchen, maybe expand the restaurant, reinvest into that restaurant, new equipment. You know, there's more things, and that also spurs the economy. So there's more to it, and there's more to generating to kind of kickstart the economy. And you can, and we've said it before, the tax code, you can manipulate the tax code, whether it be with EV credits or with no tax on tips. You can use the tax code to manipulate the economy, whether, you know, by getting somebody to buy an electric car or getting somebody to reinvest in their business and spur the economy that way and kickstart the economy and try to get the market to rebound and get people back to work and try to get things going again. Well, so there's things that they can do that will help the entire country kind of rebound from this funk that we're all in. And but there is a general funk that we're all in now. You know, you can listen to the news and read through social media, and you're going to see different opinions, and it all depends on, you know, the hard part right now is we all live in our own little bubbles, right? And it all depends on what team you're on,
right?
You know, and we all have our own little algorithms of what news source we're fed, and it's not just about what channel you watch. And you know, some people, you know, honestly, I've gotten to the point where I watch very little news media, because I can't stand to be fed any of that team sport bullshit.
You feel like they're talking.
I don't want to be
your inner psyche, like
right. I don't want to be sold bullshit, right, from either team.
And I think that happens a lot when I converse with my wife, because like I feel a certain way regardless of the news media. Like I just feel my way.
Yeah.
But it's very easy when you're talking to someone that doesn't see eye to eye with you, that your immediate natural instinct is to like try to sell it on them.
Right.
Like,
and that's what the
and
news,
she's like, I don't need to hear that shit. And I'm like, okay.
And that's what the news does. But it's not just the news. We live in a bubble, and everything that we ingest, whether it's TikTok or Facebook or Instagram or Fox News or CNN or whatever we ingest, is curated based on
spew it back out.
It's curated based on what is going on in our brains because of these data points and algorithms and all this bullshit that they know what we want to hear.
Yeah. Well,
so it's really hard to get the other side and to get a real
honest
opinion about anything. But
it's been going on for years. I mean, I remember watching that Cheney, the documentary on Dick Cheney, and right after 9/11, they brought a panel of people in to name the war when we were going to go to war against, and they called it the war on terrorism.
Yeah.
Because that name didn't trigger anything a certain way. You know, the Operation Golden Eagle or whatever, that people were like, no, it sounds like the Boy Scouts.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, well, they used to have like old school panels. People be smoking cigarettes and hanging out, and now they use AI. They can do it rapid.
Yeah.
You know. But back to that federal, the no tax on tips is like a federal proposal right now. So like I always look for like the catch, you know, and they're always going to need tax revenue, right? So the state needs revenue, the federal government needs revenue. So if the states don't go along with that federal ban on the no tax on tips, say PA and Ohio are like, we're going to still tax tips. Well, now as a waiter, you got a hell of a burden on your shoulder, you know?
Yeah, and I don't foresee that they will. I don't think that the states are going to follow along on that. I
So if you're a
will.
waiter in PA and you report that you made on your federal return, because you're going to get a loan, you're trying to buy some buying power, you made $23,000 on tips. Well, you're not going to pay federal income tax, but you're going to pay state income tax.
Right.
So the state's going to get their, you know.
Yeah. The state would lose a substantial amount of money by not taxing the tips. And
certain states just couldn't afford it. They need every dime they can get.
Yeah, I don't foresee. But I mean, there are some states that don't have any income tax. So there are some states that aren't getting any of it anyway.
And they're like, some states are like Florida,
Texas, Tennessee.
Nevada.
There's states that don't have any income tax at all. So some states already don't tax it, but but you're right. I don't see, you know, we live in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania has an income tax, 3.07%. I don't foresee that Pennsylvania is going to follow along with that. They typically don't. For instance, the 2018 tax bill, whenever we did the bonus depreciation allowance with, when you could buy an asset for your business and you could write off 100% of it in 1 year, Pennsylvania did not allow you to do that. So you could write it off in 1 year on your federal return, but you could not take that depreciation hit on your state return. So you have to have two separate depreciation schedules, one for the Fed, one for the state. It's just the way it was. So, but you have to remember too, on your W-2, there has always been a federal wages box and a state wages box, and 9 times out of 10, they're different.
Yeah.
So it may not be by a lot most of the time, but they're pretty much always different by a little bit. So it's just going to be different. You're gonna have to pay taxes on the tips.
Yeah, as we're talking about this, I think about like when we were in high school, which wasn't that long ago. It was only like 5 years ago. We you didn't have access to all this information either, you know. So like you had to go get your taxes done and talk to your tax preparer more because it wasn't in the news.
Right.
They weren't talking like they were always said no new taxes.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just a different world that we live in to where now I feel like the legacy media, these major media companies, they have to sway an opinion. You know, they have to, or else they're going to become irrelevant.
Well, 24-hour news is a relatively new thing.
Right.
Within our generation, where it used to be that there was news on for a certain number of hours per day, but now news is on 24/7. It's in your face, and it's if it bleeds, it leads, and it's sensational, and they have to try to sell you, and it has to be, it has to garnish your attention all the time, and
Yeah, I've been getting home earlier, so I like to throw the local news on just to kind of see what's going on in the area. And like you said, it seems like, that 4 o'clock hour, they're just glancing over the stories. But then they know people are getting home between 5 and 6, and it seems like they lean into like the more like
sensational stuff.
Yeah, like like dire needs of this problem, you know, like.
And then during the 4 o'clock, there's talking about they tease you about the stuff.
Right.
It's 6 o'clock. We're going to talk about this.
Yeah, this is going to kill you. I've always thought that's bullshit. Like that's a public service announcement. You know, if something is out there in the Pittsburgh area that's going to kill me, that should not need. I should have to wait for 2 hours.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a different world in that respect. And like, I just think that, you know, that if everybody says everything's expensive, it feels expensive, right?
Yeah.
So like, I don't know. It's just weird because when I go to the store, you see it now. Like, sometimes I decide I want to get something that's not really healthy for me. Like I wanted to eat a honey bun today. And I'm like, dude, it's $2.50 for a honey bun. You kidding me?
Really?
I'm like, holy shit. Or 2 for $4. I'm like, well, now I got to get 2. I mean,
yeah, you always got
twofers are the best. But like, so we were talking before we went on air, and it was something that was kind of alarming. Was whenever you start to look at, there's certain little things that no matter what the news says or no matter what the inflation says, there's certain little information like crumbs left along the way, and that'll really tell you what's going on in the economy, right? So you said that you read something where more people under the age of 60 are dipping into their funds.
People are contributing to their retirement accounts, obviously. People contribute to the retirement accounts throughout their working lives and through their paychecks and like that. And you're not supposed to dip into those until you're at least 59 and a half. That's when that money is quote unquote vested according to the Internal Revenue Service, and you can start to draw that money. Any distribution from a retirement account prior to 59 and a half is considered an early distribution. There's a few exceptions to that. I'll kind of talk about those, but there was an article in the Wall Street Journal that said that according to Vanguard, which Vanguard is one of the companies that handles a lot of retirement accounts in this country, that in 2024, 4.8% of the people that had retirement accounts with Vanguard took early distributions in 2024.
What was the percent?
4.8%, which is, it doesn't seem like a lot, but it's an all-time high. So to give it in perspective, it's up from 3.6% in 23, and the staggering number is in 2020, it was only 1.7%. So it's up a ton over the last 4 years. In the last 4 years, it went from 1.7 to 2.8 to, I think, 3.6 to 4.8. So it's just a steady increase, and it's because people are hurting and they need the money. And they're taking it out for hardship because they need money to prevent, eviction, to prevent, to buy groceries, to fix emergency repairs on their houses, to, emergency expenses that they've had to take. And the thing that sucks about having to take that money is if you're under 59 and a half, unless you qualify for one of the very few exceptions with the Internal Revenue Service, not only do you have to pay tax on that, you have to pay a 10% penalty for taking it out early. Now, there's a handful of exceptions. The exceptions are like if it's a first-time home purchase, you could take up to $10,000. If you have medical expenses over and above 7.5% of your income, you can use it for that. You can use it for, there's some tuition exemptions for it. If you're in permanent disability, or if you're 55 and you have a separation of service, meaning you're 55 and you are actually retire at 55, whether it's voluntary or involuntary, but you decide to, early retirement, you can start taking it at 55. But that's not if you're not for an IRA, that's just a 401k. But if it's under that, you have to pay, not only do you have to pay the taxes on it, but you also have to pay, in addition to the tax, you have to pay 10%. So the thing that really hurts people with that is, honestly, it's the lack of education about it. And I have countless clients that'll come in, they'll do it because they'll have this retirement account that's sitting there, and they'll come into a hard time where, you know, they've got, maybe they have a credit card that they need to get paid off, or, you know, they need the cash, and that account's sitting there, and they're like, hey, I got to pull from that account. And maybe they don't have a choice, or, you know, whatever it may be. And they look at that as an option. So they'll call that company and they'll say, well, we'll take taxes out of it. We'll withhold taxes. We'll take 20% for federal tax. That'll cover it. Well, it won't. It likely will not, because here's the deal. If you, just for rough numbers, and I didn't pre-calculate any of this, I'm just doing this off the top of my head, right? So if, say, for instance, you're a single person, you make your day job's $50,000 a year, okay? And you're maybe in the, you know, just say you're 20% tax rate, right? So, and you took a $20,000 withdrawal out of that. Now, all of a sudden, instead of you having $50,000 worth of income this year, you have $70,000 worth of income. So you're not only now, you may not be in the 20% bracket anymore. You may be in a 30% bracket.
And that's on all your income.
It's on all your income. And you have a 10% penalty. Okay. So now that tax, I mean, that's that money you got real expensive all of a sudden.
Yeah. You took out 10 and you're paying 35 to 40%.
Right. That may have cost you 35 or 40% on that money. Yeah. So that, I mean.
So you took out 10 and you needed 10, but you really only had access to $7,000.
You know, it's very, very expensive money. So when people call me before they take it out, and I have time to sit down and do the math with them and show them, like, hey, listen, here's where you are. Here's where your tax rate is. This is what's going to happen to your tax rate. Now let's add that penalty. And they see like that distribution dwindling down to like, this is what you're actually going to end up with at the end of the day. They're like, holy shit, this is costing me a huge percentage. I'd be better off
going to get a personal loan or
doing something else.
Selling a car or something.
Selling something. Maybe there's another option, right? Maybe there's not. Maybe this is just your only option.
That one looks like the easiest at the time.
Yeah.
You know.
Or maybe like this just isn't necessary. Maybe that credit card, maybe that payment's not that bad of an idea. So, you know, sometimes it's just, you got to really think these things through. Those retirement accounts, those penalties can really add up, and
they look sexy.
Or maybe the other option is that you have to have 30% withheld, because what could end up happening is you come into tax season because here's the thing, those people that are answering a phone at Vanguard or whoever has your retirement account that says, oh, we'll take 20% out. He's not a tax professional.
Right.
Okay. He's just a guy answering a phone that's going to click some buttons and have a check sent. He's following a script. He doesn't know what your tax situation is. He doesn't know how much money you make. He doesn't know anything about your situation. So you may feel warm and fuzzy inside thinking, okay, well, this guy's got me all set up. So when I go see Jerry at the end of the year, I'm not going to owe any money.
Yeah, I give him this piece of paper. It's a golden ticket.
It's all good. I already paid my taxes on this. But then you come see me and you owe another $10,000. Well, what do you mean? The guy said I already paid the taxes on this, but you didn't.
Yeah. Then they're asking, can you write off a pet? Because they're in a bad spot.
Right. So there's always something it's always maybe worth a phone call, maybe a little bit more research. Those early distributions can be very, very expensive. So it's scary to see. It's very telling. That article was very telling about the overall financial picture, economic picture of what's going on in this country, that so many people are, because Vanguard is a very, very large fund. So like probably one of the biggest in the country. So if not the biggest. So if they're experiencing 4.8% of people are pulling early, then that's a huge number of people. And that's very telling to the economic condition of this country that there's that many people, and it's scary. And not to mention on the other side, credit card credit card debt in this country right now is like 3.7 trillion.
Yeah.
All-time high.
It's funny because I think like, you keep paying it. It is what it is. And we've talked about it. We use it as a tool, right? The credit cards are a tool. We use it to get to where we need to get to. We'll pay when we get there. That's like the entrepreneurial spirit. But like, I think also with the credit cards, like even if they would just waive all the credit card debt in this country, everybody'd be in line to get another credit card.
100%.
Like they'd be like, all right, well,
look what happens when all these debt consolidation bullshit. You get the average American consumer, they rack up credit card debt, they go get a debt consolidation, they wipe out their credit cards. What's the first thing they do?
Yeah.
They fucking swipe the credit card again.
It's funny too, because I get calls. They're like, we can give you $30,000 to get out of this debt, and I'm like, well, all my debt's in like my real estate, my property. Like my credit card debt. I've like always thought that it was this huge number and it was out of control. And then you start looking at like the average person's credit. I'm like, I haven't even hit the tip of the iceberg yet. Like, should call and ask for what are they?
An increase.
Yeah, an increase on all those. Let's go, baby.
Yeah,
but
yeah, for sure. But yeah, I'd like to see now that I'm sitting with these clients that I haven't seen in a year.
Yeah,
and seeing how people's years have been, particularly business owners. I do a lot of bookkeeping and accounting for a lot of business owners, but so I see how they're doing. And I see a lot of them are struggling and cash flows are down and things like that. But the ones that I don't do accounting for that do things on their own or whatever, it's not uncommon. The majority of people right now are having had a down year in 24 and are hoping that things start to turn around here.
Yeah, and I think the psychological aspect of it for me is like, yeah, we all had down years in 2020, 21, because there was a global pandemic going on. But now it just seems like spending habits are changing. And, I think that this is a great time. Like this is back, like I don't worry too much about like my downturns and my downfalls this year or last year because I'm still in the game. You know what I mean? Like it's just a long game that you need to play. Like we were very fortunate to like enter business in like a good time and then go through some bad times and good times and bad. And that's just the way it is. It's like you can't ride. We're never going to have 20 years of success without any downturn. So like we came out in 23, it was gangbusters after the pandemic. Everything was opening back up. And then there's an election. Elections fuck with everything, People will stop their spending habits months before and change them months after until they can get a feel for what's going on. But I also think, and I know I've probably said it on one of these 70 episodes, but like every 2 decades, you just add a zero, right? So like our great-great-grandparents paid a penny for a loaf of bread and their parents paid a dime. And then like our grandparents paid $1, our parents paid $1, and now it's our turn to pay 10 for that loaf of bread. Like egg farmers, they got to pay gas bills and electric bills and utility bills. So yeah, the swine flu is affecting the crop or the flock, right? And yeah, that's the new thing. And I don't think it's a conspiracy. This shit happens, but also that guy's mortgage rate for that farm has gone from 3% to 6%. So you start adding it all up and things just get more expensive. It's just the way of life, Mm-hmm. Minimum wage was $2 when we started working. $2.35, I think. And
$5.35.
$5.35.
When we
waiters were making $2.
Yeah, they still are. $2.83. I don't think that's changed.
Man, you can't slide anything past the accountant in the room.
No.
But you know what I'm saying? Like things are it's naturally the progression of the world. Like it's just the way it is. Shit's going to cost more money, Yeah. So my kids' and your kids will pay $100 for a loaf of bread, and it'll be like no sweat because they'll make $190,000 a year instead of 90. Like I just don't know where that like teeter totters because then you lose the value of the dollar.
Yeah, and at what point are they wheeling a wheelbarrow full of cash into a grocery store to buy groceries?
Right. It's disgusting to me, but businesses aren't going to fail because of it. The good ones will raise their prices.
Yeah.
And they'll sustain the hard times.
So that's the key, though, is that you have to raise your prices in line with the rest of the economy or you fail.
Right. And I think I said it to you. I think you might have even stopped for a second and thought about it, but just because we're broke doesn't mean our customers are broke. You know, people, it's the reverse. It's the reverse. You know, people think you own your own business, you set your own hours, you have all this money. It's the reverse. It's the dual income family with one kid that both work. They're both pediatricians, or they're the ones with all the money. Because like I said, you know, when I have to buy a van for the cleaners, that doesn't put me in a nicer vehicle. You know, I don't get to go to the golf course in a $90,000 vehicle because I paid $50,000 for a van. Like, I'm always going to buy the $40,000 vehicle. But if I didn't have to buy that van, which pediatricians don't necessarily have to do, it changes it. Like, so the concept of entrepreneurs and business owners in this country is so far from the truth.
Yeah.
Because small business owners have carried the backbone of this country for 100 years now.
Yep.
But we've also took it on the chin a lot of times. And right now is the time where you're taking it on the fucking chin, because you'll see it, you know, next year you'll have people that, if it continues this way, you just be like, I wonder where that dude went.
Yeah.
And it's because he got it done for $14.99 down the street. So it's a wild time, you know, to be in a small business, even though.
Yeah, the interesting things, one thing that I have always noticed with in this business is in cycles like this, a lot of times you'll see new businesses pop up.
Right.
And I'm wondering if that's going to come within the next couple of years, where you're going to start to see people opening up, looking for ways to offset these expenses with side hustles that will maybe flourish into full-time gigs, or, you know, we're already kind of in this little weird gig economy, they call it,
right?
This little side hustle economy. It's, you know, I think we kind of talked about it a little bit last week with, you know, it's never really been easier to start a little side hustle with the internet.
And Nate talked about it before we came on air. Like, one of the things I see online, and obviously my algorithm is driven towards laundry and dry cleaning because that's what I do, is there's a lot of like Ubers for your laundry. It's just like, they're not real businesses. They have a sexy name. They have an app, and it's like Timmy from down the street's coming to get your clothes, and he's going to take them home and wash them and bring them back. When the economy's booming, Timmy down the street's not cleaning your clothes at his house. That's left for me. But like, every little piece is a piece off the pie that we're losing, you know? And I'm not too worried about it. I got other things going on too, but like, I just think that when the tough times create things like that. So you might have like Becky that works for AGH, that is a certified accountant, that takes 10 tax returns next year to like pay for her trip to go to the Bahamas that she couldn't afford without it. So then you lose maybe 4 people because of that.
Yeah.
So it's weird because the gig economy hurts small business because they're just taking a little bit.
Yeah. But I think you're going to see people looking for little side things to do, and maybe expanding out, doing some consulting work, or trying to find some way to bridge that gap.
Right.
But that's the breeding ground for small business.
Right.
That's how it starts. I mean, we had Sean Jafarian on, and that's how Slice of New York started, with
selling pizza boxes
in his driveway, where it started out with, you know, making a little bit of extra money, and it turned into one of the most popular pizza shops in Pittsburgh.
I think about Bursick. He was talking about applying at Walmart during the hard times.
Yeah.
To go get a job at night just to pay the bills. Like,
just to keep the lights on.
And I think that's what I credit my sanity to during downtimes, is like my lifestyle. Like, I have a good life, right? But I don't have a lavish lifestyle. Like, I don't need to go to the casino and spend $1,000 a night or go out to dinner every night. So like, when I start thinking about it, like, my mortgage is like a rent payment anywhere I would live. So like, just make the mortgage payments, you know, you'll be good. Figure that shit out.
Yeah.
It's just a matter, like, I think back, like, when my family started in the dry cleaning business, was like 09, 08. It was a huge economic downturn in the country, you know, and they felt it, you know, because the old owner is telling you this is what it was and this is what it's going to be. Well, three months into business, the economy's in the tanker, and it's like, well, we were supposed to make this, and now we got to pay you that, and it's tough. I mean, but the gigs, there's not a lot of overhead in the gigs, you know.
No, right, exactly, and that's the beauty of it. I mean, and I started as a side hustle, as a gig, right? I mean, when I started out, I graduated college, and when I was in college, I worked at Circuit City and was doing in-home computer repair and in-home computer installation, and was making really good money working. I was scheduled for so many hours that I was working overtime every week. So I was making more money there than I could get a job working in accounting with my degree. So I'm looking for jobs in my field, and I'm like, I'm going to have to take like a $15,000 pay cut just to get into my field. What am I going to do here? So it was hard to take that step, but I knew in order for me to be able to get anywhere beyond where I'm at.
You're maxed out there.
I'm maxed out here. You know, I mean, unless I want to be, you know, a retail store manager, but I'm not, but honestly, like I had a conversation with a retail store manager
making
there,
more money.
And we're talking, and he's like, dude, you're making more money per hour than I am. I'm working more hours than you. I'm making more money than you, but you're making, I'm working more hours than you.
Right. With more responsibility.
And more responsibility. He's like, if you break it out per hour, you're making more money per hour than I am.
That's a scary thought, dude. I had a friend tell me that a long time ago. He said, especially if you're like a territorial manager or like when you own your own business, don't ever look at your hourly. Because you're like, this is depressing, dude.
So like I had that conversation. He's like, listen, you need to go find a job in your field. He's like, because if you want to keep growing, you got to get out of here.
Right.
So I started interviewing, and I found a job, but it was legit, like a $15,000 pay cut.
Yeah.
So at first I'm like, all right, well, I'm not going to leave here. I talked to my boss, and he's like, all right, well, just stay here a couple evenings a week and on weekends. So I worked 7 days a week, and 2 nights a week I left downtown, got on a bus, rode to Monroeville, and worked nights. So like I worked my ass off for like, I think 2 years like that. And while I was doing that, I started the idea of doing some accounting work, doing some tax work. And while that built, I started cutting back my hours in retail. And then I started growing and started doing some tax returns on the side and started this little side hustle. And from like 2008 to 2012, it was just a side business, but it had grown enough that I got to a point in my career where I had to make a decision.
Yeah.
Where I was at that fork in the road again.
The gig was up.
Where I was like, do I want to stay in the corporate world or do I want to go out on my own? And I knew that the ceiling was much higher if I went out on my own. The risk was much more. We know that. But the ceiling was higher. And I really, that's what I wanted to do. I didn't want to sit in a box every day.
Right.
Now I'm sitting.
Although you did have free beer on Fridays.
Well, I left that job.
Yeah.
I left that job.
I do recall that.
And I went to a different job. And that's kind of what ended up putting me at that fork in the road.
Everything happens for a reason.
Because the job that I left the job where I got free beer on Fridays. And I went to this other job knowing that they had this, like, every quarter end, you had this mandatory overtime for like a week and a half or 2 weeks. And the first quarter of that year, it was like February. And I started to realize, like, hey, April isn't going to work for me because tax season and quarter end is going to land at the same time. And I'm not going to be able to put 90 hours in here and be able to manage tax season, the end of tax season. This isn't going to work.
Right.
So I got to that fork in the road and I'm like, I have to pick, and I have to pick right now. So I decided, fuck it. and I had a conversation. It was 2012. I was just married, and I remember like it was yesterday. We were renting this little apartment for $700 a month, no kids, just me and my wife. And I standing in the kitchen of this little 2-bedroom apartment. And I'm like, hey, we got to talk. I think I'm going to quit my job tomorrow. And she said, what? And I told her, I said, I think it's time. And I explained, I said, I did the math and I only need to make $18,000 in order to make sure all our bills are paid. And she's like, okay, do it. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And I went into work the next day and I told my boss, I said, hey, listen, I'm putting in my 2 weeks. And he goes, what do you mean? Where are you going? And I said, well, I got this little accounting business, little side business that I do, and I'm just going to do that. And he's like, wait, you don't have another job? And I'm like, no, I got this little accounting business, little side business that I do. I'm just going to do that full time. He's like, wait, let me get this straight. You're leaving a full-time job with benefits to do a little side business? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, are you insane? I'm like, maybe.
Thank you for listening. And now a brief word from our sponsor. Streamline your life with Duro Cleaners' complete pickup and delivery service. From your doorstep to their state-of-the-art cleaning facility and back, all without you lifting a finger. Get time back in your day and fresh, ready-to-go clothes. And just wait, big things are coming soon to make your experience even better. Visit DuroCleaners.com because life's better without laundry. And now, back to the show.
I just heard a great story about Adam Sandler. So Adam Sandler was when he was in acting school at NYU. He had a professor, or a teacher that took him out for beers. And the principle of the conversation was, hey man, I don't think this is for you. You should probably look at other avenues. So he was like, okay, fine, but obviously then he struck gold in everything he did when we were kids. So he was out one night with a lot of like guys like Spade and all them were out, and they ran into this guy that told him, look at other ways, and he could have like put this dude on blast. Like, how do you like me now? And Sandler just introduced him to everybody. He was like, this is the only teacher that ever took me out for a beer, and just left it at that. So like, he didn't put that dude on blast, but like he could have buried that fucking dude. Like, I'm the biggest actor in the world right now at one point. And he's made a resurgence, I guess, Sandler. But
Yeah.
That's the difference between guys that are built to work a job. Like I always think back to like cutting grass and doing that kind of shit. Like there's highs and lows then too, like you have all your customers pay you at the end of the month. You got all the money, you got to figure it out. But I think that's built inside you. Yeah. It's not, so that fork in the road was probably pretty easy for you.
Yeah, it was. It was funny. When I did it, it was scary as hell. There was an assistant controller at the time. There was a really good friend of mine there that was like really had my back, and I still talk to him, and he's like one of my biggest cheerleaders. And he told me that one of the assistant controllers was like, I can't believe it. He's crazy. I can't believe he's going to do that. And she kind of like said some shit like, he thinks people are just going to let him do their taxes. He thinks people are just going to line up for him to do their taxes. And meanwhile, this is my 18th tax season, I think. And I've literally done probably 15,000 tax returns at this point and counting. And so shout out to her. And one of the best things, so I had to, they paid me when I was at that company, I'm not going to shout out that company because I don't want to blast them, but when I was at that company, I didn't intend to leave there.
TurboTax.
They gave me a tuition reimbursement because I was taking classes there, and I had to pay it back because I left too soon. And they sent me this nasty email that I had a certain amount of time. So I wrote the check out of my business checking account and I sent it to them, and I sent it certified, and I addressed it to her. paid in full. And they were like, if you have to make payments, that's fine, but it needs to be, we need our first check by this date. And I wrote the check in full, certified to her address.
We have a
to
mutual friend that attended college while running his business. And one of the teachers there, like, I wasn't doing well in the class. I don't know what the teacher had it out for this person. And they said, someday you're going to go to work every day with your name on your shirt. And he was like, I already do. Not on that side of the chest, it's on the other. It's like my company, and teachers can be wrong. I mean, they're not always right.
Yep.
But I think that teachers are a lot like entrepreneurs, right? They do it because that's what's inside them. They want to be the teacher. They want to teach and see success through their students, And I think entrepreneurs, they don't listen to teachers very well. I mean, we've had a lot of entrepreneurs on here that are like, yeah, I was the worst in my class. And, sometimes it's born out of necessity. Like you're too smart to fail, but you're too dumb to succeed at school, And I think school is, part of that whole shtick, Like I think that you would be sitting here, well, not with you need your degrees to be where you are today, but you could have been sitting in this chair a lot faster and a lot easier had you had not gone that route and worked in corporate,
Yeah.
I think about the time I spent working in my industry where I was making pennies on the dollar, like I had enough for beer for the weekend and maybe a large pizza.
Yeah, but you worked in your industry for a long time and you learned the ropes and you learned, I mean, it was a school of hard knocks, right?
That's right.
You learned what to do, what not to do.
They don't teach dry cleaning classes at community college.
Right.
So it was worth every penny that I didn't make,
100%.
So I think that's the exciting thing.
You got paid to go to school.
Yeah, very little, but
right.
I got paid, And I think that everything works out for a reason. And that's why I think with the economy the way it is now, I'm not worried about it. I mean, I know it's not good. We're not in a great spot and everybody needs more money because everything's costs more. But as a business owner, you need to just realize, okay, now's the time. Because you know a lot about where I'm at and what I've done. I've ridden a high because I've been on a high, Now it's time to you start looking at everything. You get better at your numbers and understand your numbers. Today I was doing some cold calling and that's something I haven't done ever in my business.
Yeah.
But there's business out there.
Yep.
You just can't wait for it. You got to go get it. I saw that you were sending out
postcards,
direct mail stuff.
Yep, direct mail. We're doing some direct mail for tax season.
You're going to see
that
it
was
more
an interesting endeavor.
Well, I just think it's funny because you get these phone calls from people and you're like, fuck that dude.
But he's out there hustling.
Yeah, but the thing is he continues to call. He's calling 100 people after you. So he's getting a paycheck. He's driving a car and paying a mortgage payment somehow. So that was like my kickoff to it. Was like, I don't care if someone says fuck you to me. Like I'm going to start calling some of these businesses that I know have 100 plus employees in their place, see if they would like to offer an amenity to them, That's what I did today. And you're never going to get, I guess I think that I'm going to call someone and they're going to be like the Christmas story, like, A plus, like, can you come now?
Yeah.
Like I have all these dirty clothes. Can you be here in a half hour? Well, that's not the case,
No.
But I told Sarah, I said, I call today and then I'm more organized in my approach. So now I have a spreadsheet of who I called, who I talked to, what the answer was, and then when do I circle back? And I'm putting a 14-day circle back on them, so then I know that in 14 days I can call back and be like, hey, I talked to so-and-so, because it takes 3 no's to get a yes, right? So I enjoy that. That's my favorite part of where I'm at. I'd rather go all the way broke and then start building it back again because I know what it was like to be here. And I know getting down here is not fun, but I enjoy it so much because you're not going to piss me off by telling me no, but I'm going to piss you off because I'm calling in 14 days again. I'm be that dude that's like, hey, I'm here. Want to buy a newspaper? Just keep showing up. So I've enjoyed that aspect of my business. There's a lot of businesses in Pittsburgh. When I started, so I don't know if this is there's probably AI for this. I probably don't have to do this. I'm in RIDC Park. I have 4 clients, like 4 buildings I delivered to already. And then you start looking at them like on the Google aerial, and then you just click on them. And that's part of the fun for me is, so like there's companies in RIDC Park that like you would never in a million years think that's there. Like Sunkist has an office in RIDC Park. Like,
Really?
yeah, they're growing oranges in California and Arizona, but they have to have a corporate office here for their people here. And there's so many businesses in Pittsburgh that like, it's just insane. Like what I've seen, like companies, you're like, they do what? Like, so one of the big ones was MedRad.
Yeah.
So they sold to Bayer, right? And now Bayer's huge. I do a ton of work for Bayer, but Bayer's also sold off some of their like intellectual like components, like colonoscopy, like equipment and stuff. They've sold off to other like Medi-I techs, and like they're right next door. So like it's wild to go down. Like it's almost like you're an investigator. You're trying to figure it out. When you call someone, you almost want to have it in, you know, because it makes that conversation better. But like it's fun. Yeah. And I think that's what we said about like, we started with the thanks guys, you know, and then we were starting with the go get it. But the go get it's the fun part.
Yeah.
Like it's not a fun job to clean clothes, but it is fun to like go get those clothes.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing now. It's pretty much fun.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So shout out to the Northside Chamber of Commerce. You're gonna join there.
Did you?
Yeah. So we once you downsize your staff, all those chambers, they become more easily, like less financial to get in, because they base it on like a lot of them base it on your employees.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. So like I'm in the 1 to 6 category now. So like my shit's cheap. So, but yeah, I figured, you know, those people that are doing business, they want to do business with businesses, you know? So I thought it would be beneficial here too for the podcast, start to meet these
for
people.
Sure.
So
get some people on here. Get some guests.
And it's funny because when I was on McKnight, like we had a lot of Northside people. You know, they just came right up McKnight Road, like. Yeah. But some of those people were like serious shakers and movers in industry, like in Pittsburgh. Like you just don't think of it like that. You know, you meet these people that own multiple hotels and like restaurant groups, and I'm like, those
Northside?
Yeah, they just people that are living in the Northside, like they're loyal to a fault almost to the Northside, because it's not the best place to live sometimes. Like there's pockets. Yeah. But like you'll talk to people that are like, they've lived on the Northside 30 years. And it's like, you could live anywhere. Allegheny, Butler, Armstrong County, anywhere. Yeah. But they stay there because they're loyal to it. Because it's beautiful down there. If you can get past the shit, it's beautiful. Like major hospitals, great restaurants. Problem is there's a lot of crime down there, you know, and they love it, and they won't let me drop their clothes off of their door because they'll get stolen. Yeah. I'm like, how could you, like, I was in vacation. I had Amazon packages on my porch for a week. Yeah. So yeah, it's a fun time. I think it's a great time to be a business owner.
It's a time. It's a time.
You sound like my grandmother there.
Yeah, it's a time.
It's a time.
It's a time that you have to look at it as a way. It's a time to learn, and what do they say? If it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger.
Right, and they can fucking kill me.
You have to have thick skin, and you have to come out stronger.
Right, and I think any business that's just on a constant uphill.
It doesn't exist.
No, it doesn't exist, 1. And 2, if it does, the owner will fucking bury it at some point because they think, oh, it's tomorrow's another $1, you know? So I'm in like a real fun phase right now. I think that I knew this was coming at some point when I did what I did, but now it's like I've had a lot of fun with it, you know? And you got to be regimented though, because like when you get done cleaning clothes at 1:30, when you're used to cleaning clothes till 6, it's easy to just go home and like rake the fucking leaves and like take the dog for a walk and whistle while you're going down the street. But now it's like I'm challenging myself. I'm right where I need to be. So it's
great.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm happier. Like I spent 2.5 hours on the computer today. I didn't look at Facebook, TikTok, or anything once. And I was just doing this research for myself.
Working on your business.
Yeah. And I'm like, this is where I need to be. Because now when you start rebounding it, now you bring in more staff as you need them, not have all this staff and figure out how to feed them. You bring them in as you need them. So we have a new person working. She's done a great job for the most part. There's a learning curve.
Sure.
But, and you know, there's call offs and stuff like that, but shit happens, you know. But yeah, it's fun. It's our plant is it's the first time in 7 years that I've been able to watch my production go on without me being in it.
Yeah.
Like, so I took a week off and then I came back, and last week, even though I was back Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I didn't press a single thing Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday.
Just intentionally just let them do
Yeah,
their
I'm
thing.
like, they just did it all last week. So like I took a step back and now I'm like, all right. But that's where I catch myself is like, don't waste this opportunity.
Don't jump back in.
Yeah, first of all, don't jump back in. And two, don't go fuck off. Like, yeah, you could wash your car and like organize your garage at home or like do whatever. You waste this time. Use this time. You know, go find what you need. Like
So now this week, did you press anything?
Yeah, unfortunately, the new girl, she had a family issue that kind of came up. And what's nice is once you get past that like first month window with someone, when that family issue comes up, you're not like, are they on a fucking job interview? Like it's always nice to get them their first paycheck and like get them into the system, because now you feel like I'm a good boss. I know I'm almost too good of a boss.
Yeah.
But like, it's nice because I don't have that worry like, oh, they're leaving. Now, maybe they'll leave. Can't control that.
Yeah.
But when they're 2 days in and they're like, oh, my mom's sick, you know, and that person was very upfront with me at the beginning, the elderly mom, you know, and like, that's great. We can organize it. So like today we worked, but we didn't like kill ourselves to get it all done because she said she'll be back tomorrow. So we'll see what tomorrow brings. But like it is definitely more fun. And there's a lot of value in that too. Like, you know, I say it's fun because like to me, everything's fun. But I think there's a lot of value in having a business that you're working on and not working in it. It's a hard place to get, and you got to lose some money to get there sometimes. But we're on I like it. I like where we're at, you know. We're making phone calls, talking to people, letting people understand. Like, I wouldn't have spent any money to join a chamber before, because what's it worth to me? I can't go to the breakfast. I can't go to the luncheon. Hell, I couldn't even take off to go to the golf outing once a year. So like, what's the point of joining this business?
But if you've got people there and you trust them to be able to do all the work while you're not babysitting them,
Right.
Now you can.
And we've talked about that before too. There's a trust issue on both ends, because the employees need to trust that you know and what you're doing is best for the business.
Right.
Because if you're just out golfing and you know, driving a nice car and, you know, the phone just keeps ringing there because they got problems because you're not responding. But if you can get that fine zone where you're like, all right, cool, I'm running the day-to-day, but I'm not running the actual day-to-day. It's like a weird, and like I'm on like the brink here, and I enjoy it. So like part of that is my personal ownership of it is like, I can't just go dick off. Like I can't go to Vegas for 3 or 4 days, but we have a trade show coming up in August, and I'm like, there's no reason I couldn't go down there and just be part of it.
Sure.
Where before, you know, you'd leave Friday after you were done cleaning clothes. You'd spend Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday, get on a plane, try to get back before Monday. So yeah, I mean, you pay attention a little more what you're spending money on, and you've shrunk your revenue number for a little bit, but now I feel like now's the opportunity.
That's great.
To just build it back up and never be back in that again, you know. Like I don't mind working a day or two, like doing what I have to do, but like we can build it up and I'll see it coming. So then now, hey, we got to stop pursuing all this new work. We got to bring someone in to press pants or press shirts, and then we can keep going. So it's been a nice reset for me. I don't even think I realized until I started talking about it here tonight that it's a good spot to be in. Like when I wake up in the morning, it's not like you said something a long time ago, you try to get your kids breakfast. I'm like, dude, I was just glad to like load the dishwasher. But now I'm like, you know what? You could probably do breakfast. Like, so
Yeah.
Yeah, so I try to get home, like take the dog for a walk, get the kids off the bus. Like that's not too much to ask in life.
No.
Doesn't cost you a dime.
No,
So-
I mean, if things are running smoothly, you have so much more flexibility now.
Yeah, man, I like this couch over here.
Do you?
You think, like, you can see things clearly from
I
over
think
here.
this might be the spot.
The new spot till we get someone new. I'd like to sit in the chair one time.
Yeah, go ahead.
Right now. So, but yeah, I mean, I think we're at a point now where like things are starting to settle down politically. There's always going to be gripes and bitches, and there's going to be people bitching all the time. But now I think we're in the, what do they call it, the honeymoon phase. So like Trump honeymoon phase. And then I think what's going to happen is most marriages probably last 4 years at least. So you're going to get to the point where like, I think a lot of people got with Biden and his policies and his, like, it's only 4 years. Let's just see what happens. And then we'll see where we're at.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good time to be alive. I think it's a great time to be somebody that's willing to work for your supper, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
But I do think that it came quick, and a lot of people that are taking that money out of the early retirement, they're people that were living a little bit above their skis. You know, they might have had an apartment or a mortgage or something that was not affordable, thinking that more money's coming tomorrow, and then it just stopped. And they're 59, they're stuck in a career that like they can't make a move right away. I mean, we were fortunate enough to do what we did at 30, you know. Could you imagine at 59 trying to blow it all up? Got kids in braces and on their way to college.
Right.
So, I mean, everything's TBD on this show. Like, we film and we record. And
Yeah.
we got 7 days with our fingers crossed that, like, shit just works out for 7 more days. So, but, I mean, I don't know. That's it. That's where I'm at, I guess.
Where I'm at.
So, fuck 'em.
Fuck 'em.
Episode 70 in the books.
Go get them.
Go get 'em.
Thank you for listening to Between Two Bridges, a business-to-business podcast. Find and follow us on your preferred podcast streaming platform. Like and subscribe, and leave us a rating and review. You can join us socially on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and X. You can email the show at info@betweentwobridgespodcast.com. Until next time, make it till you rake it.
Between Two Bridges, episode 70. We just kind of talk.